Oh, hey there. Come on in. We're just about to start. Welcome to My Wife, the Dietitian, a fun weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy lifestyle. I'm Rob, and together with my wife, Sandra, we invite you to join us on this informative and entertaining journey through the complex world of healthy eating.
Join us each week as we strive to help you with transforming your overall health and relationship with food through up-to-date, evidence-based nutrition information. Are you a woman trying to control your weight? Maybe you're intermittent fasting or skipping breakfast. Perhaps you've dieted many times in your life. What about Ozempic or other weight loss medications? Are you contemplating those for weight control? Did you realize that much of the weight that you lose is most likely lean mass, muscle, and bone? Decades of trying to get smaller can really have an impact on your skeleton and muscles as you age. Today we discuss maintaining bone mass as you age with Elizabeth Quinn from Whole Story Nutrition. Stay tuned.
Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife, the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Rob.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Today we're talking to Elizabeth Quinn from Whole Story Nutrition, all about bone health.
Bone health.
Yeah, we did an episode way back on them bones.
Calcium and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and this is a really good episode to, well, you learned a lot, didn't you?
I did
Just
learn a lot.
Talking with her. Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than just calcium. That's what I learned. And a few surprises along the way too about and just some of the stats and facts that Elizabeth was discussing with us. So yeah, there's a lot to learn in this, and it's definitely worth giving it a listen.
Yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, right on. Okay, well, we'll be right back with Elizabeth Quinn talking about your bones.
We're here today with Elizabeth Quinn at WholeStoryNutrition.com. Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking your time to come talk to us today. And just wanted to ask if you could let the listeners know who you help in your work and what you do as a practice.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about bone health, which is one of my favorite topics. So, yeah, I'm a nutritionist. I've been in the field for over 30 years now. I'm a certified nutrition specialist, and I mostly work with older adults, and we work on bone health. So these are men and women who have often been told that they're at a high risk for fractures because maybe they've had a DEXA scan or, been to their doctor. And that just is kind of overwhelming to be told that. And one day you think everything's great and you're walking your dog and jumping on and off your step stool. And the next day you're afraid to do any of those things because you've been told you're at a risk to fracture your bones. So there's a lot of fear and overwhelm. And when you go online and look for information, because you don't always get a lot of information from the doctor about how to change your lifestyle and your diet to get stronger bones, it's also overwhelming because there's so much information out there. Mm-hmm. So I work with people to get a personalized nutrition plan for them that will help them, just regain that confidence that they're doing the right things to the best they can to keep, strengthen their bones and to keep their bones strong.
Oh, I love that. And
Yeah.
when you mentioned if they say step up and then they're after they have this DEXA scan, they get worried to do anything and they're afraid to exercise. Do you ever see people that maybe have fallen and have had a fracture and that's where they get the diagnosis of maybe osteoporosis? And then do you help them after that, or are you just helping them kind of upstream before they have a fracture?
I do see people who've actually had a fracture. So the people who are really worried about this are the ones who have either had a DEXA scan and been diagnosed that way or have already been fracturing.
Mm,
Um, Osteoporosis is kind of a silent disease where you don't feel anything
mhm.
until you fracture your bones. And so it can really come out of the blue for some people
No
when
doubt.
they discover that their bones are not as strong as they thought they were. So yeah, I see them a lot. That's when women are or men are going to usually go to seek help is after they've had a fracture or been told they're at a risk for that.
Oh, totally. And do you
Yeah.
see that like how the bone loss accelerates like after kind of age 45, like through perimenopause and the changing hormones and the fact that like we know that peak bone mass is at like around age 30 and like that's pretty young because people don't think
Mm-hmm.
about their bones when they're young because they just figure they'll always be fine. But that's what I see is the acceleration of the risk fracture and the osteopenia and then osteoporosis. Are you seeing that too in your practice?
Yes. I don't really see a gradual decline unless women are starting to get DEXA scans at a young age. But what you said is absolutely true because in your 20s, you've got your peak bone mass is pretty much laid down.
Yeah.
That's happening in your teens and 20s.
Wow.
And then after age 30, you start slowly losing bone mass, like maybe 1% a year or something like that.
Wow.
And then
Yes.
when you get up to perimenopause, and for like 10 years after menopause, you will lose bone mass at a faster rate. So you lose it more quickly and then it levels off after that. But you want to ideally, you want to have a really good foundation of bone mass, going into your 30s so that you can still lose the normal amount of bone mass throughout the rest of your life, but it's not going to throw you over into a osteoporosis. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so really the message should be going out to teenagers, right? And young people in their 20s. They're the ones who really should be, but unfortunately, it's hard to be concerned about something that isn't going to happen to you till you get into your 60s, right? When you're at
Totally.
that age. So,
Yes.
That's like the case right across the board with health. When you're young, you just think, "Oh, I'm fine. It's not going to happen to me. That's something I don't have to worry about till I'm older." But yeah, there's so many things that are preventative if you deal with it when you're younger. Question two for you, Elizabeth. The people that you're seeing and you're, we'll call it treating, I guess. What's the goal with that? Are you trying to get them, because obviously their bone mass is weakened? Is that correct? And you're trying to sort of bring it back up to where they're like healthy again. Their bones are healthy.
well, we measure it in bone density. So, yeah, they will have a low bone density. That's what the DEXA scan measures.
Okay.
Really, the ultimate goal is to prevent fractures. That's the goal of anybody who has that condition, because just having low bone density doesn't, I mean, you don't really feel anything it's when you fracture that you have the pain and the trauma and all of that and the slow healing and all of that. So what we're trying to do is prevent fractures. But so I'm a nutritionist, so I don't really treat, but my goal is to get the diet and supplements so that my client is getting all of the nutrition that they need to strengthen their bones and to keep their bones strong. Yeah,
Right.
so that's my goal, is to make them confident in the foods that they're eating and that they're just getting everything they need. There's a lot of nutrients that are related to bone health.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
And you've been in the field for 30 years, you said, so 3 decades. And you've probably seen, because I've been almost as long as you, but not quite, and have seen the kind of the messaging change over the years in terms of, it was very calcium driven, like calcium. And I think the vitamin D kind of came later. And now there's all these other vitamins and minerals that are relevant and that are now, there's more evidence to support that, it's like the whole, I love your company name, Whole Story Nutrition. That's just so good. It's so clever. And it's like the whole foods. It's like the whole story. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you noticed the changes with the different kind of recommendations for supplementation and stuff over the years?
Absolutely. Calcium used to be the only thing that people talked about.
Yes.
With bones.
Yeah.
And some doctors still will only tell people to take calcium. So that's a whole subject with a lot that we can talk about. But now they're recommending also vitamin D. So that's really important. Vitamin D actually helps you absorb calcium.
Right.
So that's really important to go along to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. And another vitamin that's kind of come on the picture recently that a lot of people are talking about is vitamin K.
Right.
Taking vitamin K along with vitamin D. So vitamin K actually helps you to move calcium into your bones. So they're all kind of helping get that calcium where it belongs. The vitamin D helps you absorb calcium from your gut. The vitamin K helps you to get the calcium into the bones instead of having it kind of lodge in different tissues in the body where you don't want it, like your kidneys and your blood vessels and places like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And like I've often said to Rob how, I think we've talked about this on the podcast too, about the increased risk of kidney stones if you're taking high dose calcium supplements and potentially maybe a high dose vitamin C and maybe not enough fluid. And then you're getting that oxalate, like basically the calcium is building up in the kidneys or in your arteries too. So just like you said, the vitamin K helps move that calcium into where it belongs, into the skeleton, into the bones. So I love that. Yep. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So how can a woman in midlife keep her bones strong and prevent osteoporosis if she still has the ability to prevent it, if she's not already like in that low bone density phase with her skeleton?
Yeah. That's like the $1 million question.
That's right.
There's so many nutrients that are associated with your bones. So it can be kind of overwhelming. I have a list of 17 different nutrients that are like pretty much directly associated with bone health. So that can be overwhelming to think about, but it's really not that hard if you eat enough food and if you're eating a good variety of foods.
Ooh, I like that. That is, what? Let's stop there because that, what? That could be, what we use, Rob, for the, like the intro, because that is so key. And we've talked about this a lot on the show, especially recently, just how so many women, especially, as they get into their 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, have been dieting a lot of their life and restricting and taking out and reducing. And, with the perimenopause and the hormone changes, then, they're increasing the fat storage and all this stuff is happening with their body. And so the natural inclination is to restrict more and to like reduce their diet and try to watch the calories and, take things out, where it's like absolutely the opposite. Like you actually need to be well nourished and you need like those 17 different vitamins and minerals to help keep your skeleton strong while you get into the golden years and you want to be able to stay independent. You don't want to fracture. You want to be able to lift your groceries and to be able to keep walking and seeing your family and seeing the grandkids and lifting up the kids. Like it's just, it's so important. I'm getting passionate about it because I see it over and over and over again. But sorry, I'm so glad you mentioned that it's the variety and the wide range of nutrition, and it's not difficult. It's just that people have to eat.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a pretty simple message, right? But it starts when you're like a teenager, because society, of course, wants everyone to be thin. So there's that pressure to keep your weight down. And then even the medical profession wants people to be thin and gives messages that you need to lose weight. I mean, the minute you tip into that overweight category, you get a message that, oh, your weight's a little high, and it's assumed that, your health problems are because of that. So people are getting messages to be thin from a couple of different places, and that just builds up when you do it for decades. And like you said, by the time you get into perimenopause, you may be just putting on weight at that age just because that's the way it goes.
Yes.
When you get older. And so then you're going to try even harder to restrict and eat less foods and stuff. So you're kind of doing the opposite of what you need to do to be healthy. There's actually research showing that it's healthier for older adults to actually be just a little tad overweight than it is to be ideal weight or underweight.
Yes.
The mortality rate is lower for overweight adults than it is for adults who are at their ideal weight. So,
Yep, that's so true. Yep. I mean, if you have a little bit extra weight, you're going to the gravity of walking actually helps maintain bone mass. So, like if you have a little bit extra, it's actually protective. And I work in long-term care also, and I see the frail, elderly women that don't have much extra. Those are the people that unfortunately and tragically they don't have good quality of life. And if they fall, which happens a lot, the fracture sends them to the hospital, and then it's kind of a downward cycle from there. They might not come back. So I see it all the time. And I think it's so important that people get the message, especially women, to rethink their body image and rethink the way they see themselves, and not to keep trying to shrink. Like we need the strength, we need the body mass, and we need nutrition. It's so important. We cannot get everything we need in one meal a day, or if you're fasting most of the day and you're barely eating, I think there's so much pressure on women from teenage years to the whole lifespan to, restrict and try to, get smaller. And it's not helpful and it's not healthy. So anyways,
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. What I feel like the thing I do most often is tell people they need to eat more food.
Yes.
Yes. It's funny. It's It's a funny message that people like when Sandra says that to people too, that we're just out hanging out with friends or whatever. And she's like, yeah, if you want to lose weight, you got to eat more food. And they just kind of look at her sideways like, what do you mean? That doesn't sound right. But once you explain it and understand. Yeah, exactly.
It works. Totally.
Yep.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, yeah.
And when you eat more food, you're going to get more nutrients. So then you can fit all of the protein you need into your diet and, get all the vitamins and minerals you need if you're taking in enough food and calories and stuff. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know because there's a lot of people I see that, restrict dairy, for instance, for whatever reason. There's lots of narrative around that. But the thing with cheese and yogurt and cottage cheese and milk, they actually have it's good quality nutrition there. You've got some good protein. You've got a lot of the 17 nutrients that you mentioned that help with your skeleton. And so a lot of times that's an easy fix, like an easy way to help with overall nutrition is just adding cheese to things and, having some yogurt for a snack with fruit or, those kind of things. But I want to hear from you, like what you were saying that there's 17 different nutrients. So can you explain some of those to the listeners? That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's protein, of course. So that's kind of a macronutrient. And you need protein you need it for just about everything that goes on in your body, but especially to keep your bones and muscles strong. And strong muscles go hand in hand with strong bones. Really, you need to have strong muscles in order to keep your bones strong.
Makes sense.
And then there's a handful of vitamins that are really important. There's vitamin A, actually helps with like the differentiation of the bone cells, whether they, develop into the osteoclasts, which break down bone, or the osteoblasts, which build up bone.
Build up or cleave. Yeah. I remember that in what was it? That was, it was organic chemistry or whatever. It's like the build up, the B or the osteoblast, or the C is the clast or cleave. So they break down. But the little trick to learn that for the test, right? Exactly. So vitamin A, and that actually also helps with collagen, right? Vitamin A and protein, which is part of the matrix of your bone and just how your body is all put together. So that's okay. Keep going. Sorry. Yeah.
And then we talked about K and D already, but also vitamin C is really important for developing collagen, for like building collagen. It's kind of like the cement that holds the cells of your body together. So you need vitamin C to have really healthy collagen.
Hey, Rob, and then, sorry to interrupt you. Did you realize this about all of these, like vitamin C and vitamin A?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just joking. I'm always learning on here.
Because you might not associate vitamin C with bones.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I didn't for sure. I know vitamin C is sort of an overall good for a whole bunch of things, but I wouldn't have directly associated it with bone health. But it makes sense. If it's good for everything, it should be good for your bones.
Yeah. And then there's a whole handful of minerals. There's calcium, which of course we know like 99% of the calcium in your body's in your bones. Iron, that's not in your bones so much, but there's an enzyme that needs iron that's related to building collagen. And then there's strontium, there's copper, zinc, selenium, boron, magnesium, phosphorus, silicon, manganese, and potassium. And all of those either are actually in the bone matrix or somehow they're involved with the enzymes that you need to create the bone matrix. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good breakdown of all of the different vitamins and minerals that are, some are micronutrients. We just need a little bit, like the selenium. Mm-hmm. Some are macro, like the calcium. And then you've got all those different like fat soluble and water soluble vitamins. So this is amazing. And of course, the protein and other parts of the macronutrients, just like the overall healthy, balanced meal and snacks and diet is going to help your body get all of those nutrients, because Mother Nature's amazing, eh? She's given us like those whole foods that have a good balance of all of these vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, it's all packaged up for you, really. Yeah. For example, leafy green vegetables like kale and collard greens have about 12 of those minerals in them that are on the list that I just mentioned. They also have vitamin A and vitamin C, and they actually have a little bit of protein. So you can get like 3/4 of those nutrients just from eating leafy greens. And whole grains are also going to give you at least half of those nutrients, because when you process grains, turn them into like refined flour and stuff, you lose a lot of the nutrients. But whole grains have a ton of minerals, and they also have protein. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you said that because that is one that many people that I see have either been on a low carb or no carb diet, and part of their kind of their meals don't include the whole grains. And it is something that, as you said, it's a way to get our minerals and fiber. But yeah, it's a key part of kind of a balanced meal, I think. And I think the whole idea of weight and, carbs and that whole message out there, it kind of has gotten convoluted, and people have success with completely cutting carbs out of their diet and losing weight. But it's not helping their bones, and it's not helping their bowels, and it's not helping their other health indicators. So I think it's important to kind of not exclude whole food groups and try to be a bit more inclusive with variety and diversity with with your diet and your food, rather than excluding everything. Like, I just feel like I see that so many times. So I'm glad you mentioned the whole grains. That is like, so you said half of the minerals can be coming from the whole grains that you're including.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go in and look at the nutrient breakdown of like quinoa, which is actually a pseudo grain, but that's, we kind of count it as a grain, or, all those different, it doesn't have to be whole wheat. It can be, what are some of the millet or sorghum, buckwheat. There's just so many different types of grains out there that people can eat, even if they're maybe gluten-free and don't want to eat wheat. There's still a lot of different choices for ways to get those nutrients.
Barley's another one, Rob? Rob just picked up some yesterday because I was making soup, and I'm like, oh, we're out of the barley. And so, yeah, that's another one that's just a natural, like, soluble fiber. And yeah, it's so good. Like, it has all those minerals, plus it has that great effect for the gut health and the microbiome. So yeah, no, I love this. This is so much more like information than what you think. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Rob, don't you think?
What do you mean?
Well, in terms of like how a woman can keep her bones strong in midlife, did you ever think we were going to be talking about whole grains and we were going to talk about leafy greens? Was that part of what you were expecting?
Well, no, I think most people just assume you need more calcium. It's not,
right.
But you know what? Ironically, from doing this podcast with Sandra for the last 3 years, the one thing, the one common sort of consistent thread through all of the messaging is eat a balanced diet that includes whole grains and fruits and vegetables, and just eat a balanced diet, and it takes care of most of your nutritional needs and most of the health issues that people have. The answer is to eat a balanced diet. So in that regard, it doesn't surprise me that, oh, hey, here's that answer again. But it's crazy that there's so many people who don't do that. And it's like, it's just so easy. It's just the writing's on the wall.
It's not
all you got to do
easy, though. I mean, there's a lot of information
it's not easy
out
to
there.
do, but it's a simple answer, but it's not always easy to do.
Exactly. A lot of people I talk to say they know what to do. They just can't do it, or they don't know how, or it's the convenience factor, or like time factor, or it's just, or they just don't, they need some help or guidance with just even a meal plan to just figure out like, well, what's the structure and like what, when to eat and like the timing. And so it's, definitely. I see what you're saying, Rob, that it seems so simple and easy, but it actually, with everybody's life in, everybody's like modern living is busy, and we're on the run. And so there's lots of different things that are impacting how we eat and what foods we're choosing. So it's,
for sure. It's like quitting smoking. Smoking's bad for you, but you still do it because you don't know how to quit, right? It's like you need the tools to sort of get you to the destination. And I understand.
It's a great point, though, that, it's okay to say, oh, just eat a balanced diet, but that takes a little bit of education and, what foods are good foods, what foods are considered whole foods. Some people may, have questions about that. Well, what exactly is a whole food?
True.
And just help with teaching people how to, like you said, put meals together, ideas for different foods that fit into the different categories, and then help with just being accountable of making small changes, because nobody's going to wake up tomorrow morning and suddenly start eating a balanced diet, right?
Right.
You can do it in small steps and kind of work at it over time. And it's a kind of we're all like a work in progress, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And we're not perfect. Nobody ever gets to have like the perfect diet, but you can always keep improving.
Yeah. We're all different in terms of, our bodies are all different. So, our eating habits and how, like one food might affect my body differently than it affects yours. And so I guess there's independent needs too, or individual needs that people have that you have to address. And I don't know, does that sound right?
Yeah, that's why I love personalized nutrition.
Yes.
So you can do testing. You can do functional testing, like stool testing, or even food sensitivity testing. Or you can just look at somebody's labs that they got from the doctor, and you can look at signs and symptoms in their body, like do they have dry skin? How healthy is their hair and their nails? What does their tongue look like? And you can kind of get an idea of what nutrients might be missing.
Yes.
And then you personalize a plan just for that person. It's not going to work for everybody. There's no across the board plan. It really has to be personalized for each individual client.
Yeah. And it starts where they're starting from, right? Like, so depending on what they're already doing and their preferences and their allergies and all that. And it, like you said, it's small steps for behavior change. It's a journey. Like, it's not like no one's perfect. And it takes a little bit of effort and time and information too with that change.
Yeah. It's a journey.
Are you finding with the people that you're coaching, or what do you call it? Coaching, I guess, or consulting?
Yeah, it's a combination. I definitely do coaching and education. Okay. So
sure. So the people, your clients that you're dealing with, is there any pattern to their, like the people that have bone loss issues and have had their fractures and issues with bone strength, I guess, are there any patterns to their I don't know, nutrition history or anything that you can see where it's like, oh, they're all have not had milk their whole life, or they all eat way too much of this certain food, or is it everyone kind of random?
Oh, there's a lot of different reasons why someone might have osteoporosis later in life. And it's called the root cause. So that's one really important thing to do, is to look back and see, why did this happen in the first place? Because it's not a normal condition that everybody's inevitably going to go through. So there's usually something that happened, and it can be, a lot of times it's just poor diet when they were younger for one reason or another. There's a lot of drugs that are associated with osteoporosis, like people who take PPIs, which is acid blocking drugs for long periods of time. People who take steroid treatments are at a high risk. Thyroid replacement drugs can put you at a risk. And then there's a whole list of other drugs. What else? If you have hyperthyroidism, and if you have any kind of condition that is interfering with your absorption, like, say, celiac disease or Crohn's disease, any kind of inflammation in your gut that interferes with you absorbing food. So some people have chronic conditions like that, and they don't really have it diagnosed until later in life. And by then, a lot of damage has been done. You've been going for a long time without absorbing nutrients. So that's one that I see. Like, I've got clients who have celiac disease who didn't find out about it until they were an adult and were literally malnourished as a child because of it. So
wow. So you could be eating all the right things, but if your body's not absorbing the nutrients, then it's not doing you any good.
Exactly. And
Wow.
which brings me to another important part of keeping your bones strong is digestion. So with the programs that I run, a big part of them is digestion, making sure that people's digestion is working good, that they have enough stomach acid, that they have good motility, that they're moving food through their, intestinal tract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that. Your program called Get Simply Strong Bones. I like
Simply
that.
Strong Bones.
That's excellent. Yeah, because it's, Simply Strong Bones. It's got all the information. It's tailored nutrition regarding your digestion and making sure you're getting the nutrition to help keep your bones strong. And that's a great program. Smart. I like that a lot.
Yeah, the digestion is super important because, like Rob said, you can be eating all the right foods and taking supplements, and you have to actually absorb those. So a lot of people don't realize that your digestive tract is actually outside of your body. It's considered to be outside of the body. So
Crazy.
When you put something in your mouth, it's not in your body yet. It has to be absorbed through the intestinal lining and get into your bloodstream before it's in your body. Otherwise, it just goes right through and out the other end, and it never was in your body in the first place.
That's right. And it's like one cell thick. Like that's how close to the outside world inside is. It's so crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It really is. Yep.
The one other thing that when you were talking about all the different, there's a few other causes, and this is one of the questions that we were going to talk about also, is the fact that with our modern living and our sedentary kind of lifestyle, isn't just like using gravity and helping keep your bones strong. That can also be a risk factor for long-term low bone density or osteoporosis in older years, if you're not actually using your muscles and using gravity to keep the skeleton strong.
Yeah. The exercise, the weight-bearing exercise. So that's a huge recommendation that people get when they have osteoporosis, is that they should be doing the weight-bearing exercise. When you move, your muscles are attached to your bones. So, whenever you move your muscles, you're pulling and putting tension and pressure on your bones and kind of loading them up with pressure, which triggers your bones to increase their density because they know they need more strength to handle the pressure that they have on them. And also muscles and bones, besides that kind of mechanical tension, they also have chemical signals going back and forth between them, like crosstalk. They secrete little proteins that will influence each other and send messages. So if you have healthy muscles, your bones get healthy messages from those muscles saying, hey, we need you to grow and increase. And if your muscles are, not there, if they're not sending the correct messages, that can affect your bones, because there's no need, if they're not being used, there's no need for them to build themselves up and build up the density. So
yeah, it's called resistance training. That's kind of, it's like resisting, right? Like it's kind of building a protective, the muscles are resistant and the bone. And so it actually helps keep the bone density if you're, if it's trying to resist.
Yeah. And muscles and bones are just they just go hand in hand. You really have to, you need strong muscles to keep your bones strong. And it's just one of those things that, again, just like the diet, that I think people want to kind of get in the habit of doing it when they're younger and really try to stay fit and because the older you get, the harder it is to keep your muscles strong as well, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to go into midlife with strong muscles to begin with and just keep a steady routine of building them up. And
it's easier to maintain them than to try to build them when you're older.
Yeah. And the fact that sarcopenia, as we get older, we lose 1% of muscle every year. And so it's like, it's even, to actually keep the muscles, maintain them is work, but then to grow them and bone too, as you said, they go hand in hand. So it's, it's definitely, there's a lot of factors that work together to maintain bone and muscle into older years, it seems. And
there's actually a condition now called osteosarcopenia.
Yes.
To illustrate the connection between the two.
Right. So, okay. So the definition, I guess, would be that it's not just because sarcopenia is lack or loss of lean muscle. But the osteo would be also the bone. So the lack or loss of bone and muscle.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's a lot harder to come back from that because you're just in much more of a deficit of nutrients and energy. And you're kind of in a catabolic state, right?
Yes.
At that point. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Holy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. This has been so, just such the whole picture, the whole story, just like your name. I like that.
We got the whole story.
The whole story.
Very insightful.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Any other questions that you might have, Rob?
Maybe just if you're able, Elizabeth, to summarize maybe sort of what your recommendations would be for people in general, I guess, to sort of prevent, the issues that, with osteoporosis and the things we discussed, and maybe some of the tips that people who are going through that, if that's possible. I don't know if it's that general, but.
Well, I would say the most important thing is taking in enough energy and eating enough food, because that's like the whole foundation of you have to have enough energy for your body to do the things that it needs to do and to keep it in a state where it's building up tissue instead of breaking it down.
True.
And when you take in enough energy and eat enough food, so then I would say try to focus on eating whole foods and nutrient-dense foods, so that, like I said, nobody's perfect. I don't expect anybody to be perfect and to, never eat a cupcake again or anything like that. But for the most part, to eat nutrient-dense foods, which means that for the amount of calories in them, they're giving you a lot of nutrients as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And when you do that, you are going to cover most of those nutrients that I talked about. And there's always going to be a few things, a few holes in people's diets, and you can use supplements to cover that.
Right.
The biggest one usually being calcium. You only want to supplement with as much calcium as you aren't getting in your diet. So it's important to find out how much you're eating and then just supplement the difference. You don't want to supplement the whole 1,200 milligrams. But you can go on an app like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal and just log a couple of days and get an idea of how much calcium you eat and how much protein you eat, and see, where you need to improve with your food that you're eating.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Like having a calcium calculator. I think there's a few other websites too. I think there's one in Canada, like Osteoporosis Canada has a calcium calculator, so that you can actually it leads you through like kind of a typical day of what you include. And then it kind of summarizes your intake of calcium in particular.
Yeah.
And then like you said, you don't want to be, especially like 1,200 all at once, because your gut only absorbs about 300 at a time, 300 milligrams of calcium, which is kind of like what's in a serving of a calcium-rich food or fluid. So when I see people supplementing with a big dose at once, it's not a great idea. I think they should have them kind of, is that what you see too, in terms of like having them? Yeah. Okay.
I see people who, they'll say, my doctor said to take 1,200 milligrams of calcium. Oh. But the thing is, everybody's eating some calcium.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Most foods have some calcium in them.
Yes.
there's some foods that are really good sources of calcium, but most foods have at least a little bit of calcium.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably getting at least 300 milligrams. And foods that people don't even realize have calcium a lot of times. I mean, there's some foods that you wouldn't even think have calcium in them that actually do. So it's good to take a look at it and just see how much you're getting and then supplement based on that.
Yeah. Like for an example, like right here, I have, because when I talk to clients online, I have different things I show them. And this is like organic black bean spaghetti. So it's one of those alternative pastas that are super high in protein because they're made with black beans. But on the nutrition facts label, like right on the side, calcium is 175 milligrams per serving, which is like half a cup of dry pasta. And it's like 13% of your daily value is because it's made with the soybeans. It's a black soybean flour.
Yeah.
So it's like to think like it's not black bean, it's organic black soybean, it says in terms of the ingredient list, but it's incredible. Like that's a high source of calcium. I mean, that's a fair amount, 175 milligrams. So right there.
From a noodle.
Yeah, in a noodle. Exactly. Yeah. So like you said, there's,
people are probably eating more than they realize. Like an orange has 60 milligrams of calcium.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, or kiwi fruit has about 2 kiwi fruits have 50 milligrams. So, and eggs have some calcium in them. Like 2 eggs has 50 milligrams of calcium. So, yeah.
Yes.
So and then of course probably are underestimating how much they eat.
Right.
Totally.
Right. Like, also like the sesame seeds or if they're using hummus that's made with sesame seed butter, the tahini, or the chickpeas, the leafy greens. Like there's a lot of kind of non-dairy sources of calcium that definitely, as you said, people are maybe eating those things and not even realizing that they're getting a source of calcium.
Yeah, and it also shows how just eating food can give you the nutrients that you need. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Food first. I totally think, try to get your nutrition, your vitamins and minerals, everything you need through your food. And as you mentioned, if there's, a gap in what the recommendation is for a particular nutrient and what you're eating, if there's this gap that you just can't close, then that's the place for a supplement.
Exactly. And even with protein, like I'm a big fan of protein powders and stuff like that because it helps you to get up to that level of protein, which can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
To eat that much food.
Yeah, especially for older people, I find too. I've got my parents on protein powder because just eating that much protein, it's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to eat a lot of food often to get the amount of protein that you need. So it definitely has its place, the protein powders.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, and when you go to a potluck, I'm just thinking of the food first. What do you bring to your friends or family if you're going to like a gathering that's around a meal?
Well, I'm all over the place with stuff like that because I love to cook so many different types of things. So a lot of times I will just make like what I feel like making at the time.
Right.
But I went to a Halloween party a few years ago and they had it was a potluck. I don't remember what I brought, but someone else brought buffalo chicken dip. Have you ever had that?
That sounds good.
So that has been, I adopted that as my new go-to potluck dish. It has chicken, like shredded chicken. It has a couple different kinds of cheese. And ranch dressing and hot sauce and a bunch of spices in it. It's so good. Yeah.
Rob, can you make that tonight?
There's a ton of recipes. If you Google it, you'll find recipes online. But,
buffalo chicken dip. Interesting.
And you just dip a chip or something?
You can have it with like chips or pita bread, or you can even use. It's really good with celery sticks if you don't want to eat crackers or bread
true.
with it. So,
and it's got shredded chicken in it. That sounds delicious.
So you're checking off the protein and the calcium boxes for
the cheese and oh my gosh, and the
yummy
flavor
box.
And the yummy box. I was going to say with the hot sauce and spicy.
It checks off the yummy box. Yeah,
totally. That's
so
important.
Cool. Oh my gosh,
and it's not too hard to make. So
yeah.
Sounds
my
awesome.
gosh. You know what? I have another question, and it just came to me because we had an interview recently about, the weight loss medication. And I don't want to, if this is completely out of your wheelhouse, no worries. But I'm just wondering, with clients that you've seen, have you had any clients that are taking, because a lot of these like Ozempic and other weight kind of like appetite suppressing weight loss medications, the people don't end up getting their nutrition because they're not eating, they're barely eating much at all. And so, they're losing weight. Great. Well, I mean, for them, they want to lose weight, and that's kind of, the whole goal. But do you see that? Like, what have you seen? I know it was off the script or whatever, but I just wanted to see your experience.
I have not had any clients who are on the GLP-1 agonist medications.
Yes.
But I have colleagues who do see a lot of clients with that. And I've heard from both sides of the table, basically, people who are really in favor of them because they do help people get down and get into a better metabolic state. And then there's also the people who they just create all kinds of problems for because they're slowing down your GI tract, and you can actually, sometimes to the point where you can even get gastroparesis, where your stomach isn't emptying properly, and that can cause a lot of problems. So there's a lot of issues possible for people if they don't. Actually, I did have a client who was on them before she was seeing me, and she went on them and was losing weight. And her doctor said, "Oh, why don't you increase your dosage?" Well, when she did that, she started having a lot of issues. So I think maybe they're not always prescribed really wisely. Mm-hmm. I've heard of, there are practitioners who will microdose them. And that seems like and they'll microdose the medication. And then while the client is taking that medication, they will have them aggressively doing lifestyle changes so that then they're going to wean them off the medication. And I feel like that's a really good approach versus put you on this. You're going to have to take it for the rest of your life, right? Because when they stop taking it, the benefits are gone, basically. Right. So, so if you haven't been able to change those lifestyle habits, then, you're going right back to where you were before.
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate your perspective on that. And just, as a practitioner who's helping people maintain bone and maintain muscle, this is part of the whole weight loss journey for a lot of people who are, trying to reduce the number on the scale, which sometimes, a lot of times the number on the scale also represents your lean muscle and your bone. So if you're going to be dieting or taking medication to prevent eating, this could backfire in terms of your long-term health of osteoporosis risk and, and just sarcopenia or osteosarcopenia. So, wow, this is,
Sometimes I'll just have to have a client really clarify what their goals are, because if your goal is to have healthy bones, you have to eat food for that to happen, right? If your goal is just to lose weight or get, have a different number on the scale, that's not going to be conducive to the healthy bones. So they really need to set their priorities of what they want to have in the end.
I think a lot of people too, sometimes if they're chasing the summer body or they want to look a certain way and that's their goal, they might not understand what goes with that, the side effects of, okay, you want to do this. These are the other things that you're affecting with your health if you want to chase that weight loss goal, for instance, so I think helping people understand, and that's partly what we're trying to do through this podcast, is helping people understand all the aspects of how eating affects your health and how not eating, or some of these different diet plans that are out there, the side effects and the detrimental effects on your health in the long run. A lot of times too, it's not just what's going to happen to me next week. It's what's going to happen to me when I'm 70 if I do this now. So, it's education again, right? So yeah, we appreciate your input on that.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely agree. It's a long game. Taking care of your bones is a long game, and it needs to start earlier in life. You can still make changes later in life and absolutely improve your bone health. But the best thing is to catch people when they're younger and help them realize the importance of these habits, so that they can kind of get that foundation in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you spending your time with us and giving all this valuable insight into the importance of bone health and as people age. And I really want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, one of my favorite topics. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
Not a problem. And where can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about what you're doing? Are you on social media, website, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm on, my website is wholestorynutrition.com. It's WHOLE.
Right.
And I am on Instagram. You can connect through my website. If you go to my website, Perfect. You can connect to my Instagram and Facebook page and all that stuff.
Perfect.
Instead of me telling you the wrong address.
All the handles. Yeah,
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll post a link to your website on the show notes, and people can track you down there. And then we'll make a post on Instagram too and tag you on there. So
great.
It will be out in the social media world. So
awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz.
I'd love to have people send me emails, or there's a place to contact me on the website. There's a place to schedule a free phone call if you want to do that, or you can send me an email, liz@wholestorynutrition.com. And if you have
Perfect.
questions or comments or anything, just feel free to send me an email.
Right on.
Awesome.
We will link that as well.
Okay, great.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we'll come visit you in Virginia on our North American road trip one day.
When you come, I'm going to make buffalo chicken dip for you. So
we expect
that's why we're coming.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, on. Thanks again, Elizabeth. We really appreciate you talking to us today.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome. We'll talk again soon.
Great to talk with Elizabeth Quinn today, eh?
Yeah, it sure was. I learned a lot. I didn't realize there was that much involved with bone health.
I know.
I think like everyone else, I just assumed that you need your calcium and you take your calcium supplement and you're good. But yeah, there's so many more factors to consider.
Yeah, it's amazing, eh? That's why we have the guest experts on here to
for sure.
enlighten everyone and
to teach Rob.
Yeah, and to get in the nitty gritty. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I really appreciate that she was able to explain all that, and hopefully our listeners can get some benefit from that as well.
Yeah, we'll put all the calcium calculator in the show notes, and just get you thinking more about the importance of maintaining your bone health and muscle, because they work together. And if we keep trying to get skinny or keep shrinking, you're going to lose bone mass and lean muscle.
Yeah, for sure. Those calcium calculators, do they just calculate your calcium? Like, is that they look at everything you've eaten, but they just pick out the calcium element?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm going to check that out. I'm sure I get plenty. All right. Well, that is it for this week. If you want more information on what we are doing, you can check out our website. It's mywifethedietitian.com. Send us an email if you've got questions that you'd like us to discuss on the show. We're more than happy to do that. Our email is mywifetherd@gmail.com. You can also find us on the internet or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate and review the show. That's super helpful. Helps other people find it and keeps us going here too. And share with your friends. That's another thing that's super helpful.
At least share with one friend.
Yeah, exactly. So that is it. We will be back Wednesday with our nutrition nuggets. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife, the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.